week's live, if you're rewatching this video, we're going to be doing this live on plan management. If you are not from Australia, you may not know what that means. If you are from Australia and you don't know what that means, we're here to talk about it and we're here to answer your questions. Justine is there. I'm going to add her to the live. I always forget how to do this. If anyone is joining this live, if you want to comment in the little, hi, how are you?
Hello, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on my live today. And we're going to be talking about plan management and answering a few questions about plan management. And then we're going to talk a bit about Plan Tracker, which is where you're from. So everyone that is watching, I'm sorry, I can't open the chat. Oh, there we go. I've got it. Anyone that's watching, comment in the little chat box whether you are self-plan or NDIA manager. Oh yeah, agency, that's it. Agency. I think some people call it NDIA manager. Yeah. So I thought that while everyone's joining us on our live, we might debunk a few myths about the NDIS. I tried to look up plan management and there weren't any of those, so we'll just do it about the NDIS. So when it comes to NDIS, everyone knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's not often the case, and I think that's for a variety of reasons. I think one of the reasons that not everybody knows what's going on at any one time is because there's so many different sources of information. Mm-hmm. So you've got the NDIS website, obviously. You have the NDIS helpline phone number that you can call. You've got some community forums. You've got this type of forum that you so magnificently host. You've got advice from plan managers. You've got advice from support coordinators. You've got advice from providers and LACs. You've got the NDIS's printed documents. I mean, the list goes on. There's just so many different ways that you can access information, and some of it could be up to date, some of it might need updating, and so that's where I guess you're sort of at the mercy of whether you know what the current way of thinking or the current policy and laws are. We've just had an amendment go through really recently, I think, and that's also another way that people might not know exactly what's going on, is because the NDIS, like everybody, has been frantically trying to react, in particular to COVID. And there was a time, over the last couple of years where there was change after change after change. So, and even on the 1st of July, as a result of the amendments that went through, there's going to be more change. So it's just something that, nobody really has enough time in the day, except for plan managers, to know what's going on. So, and I think the other reason that not everybody knows what's going on potentially is because of everybody's right to privacy. So, as a plan manager, we won't share information with people who the participant or the participant's nominee hasn't given consent to share information with. So they might want to know what's going on, but we're not going to tell them without that consent to share. So, and that's all for the most right and appropriate reasons, but it does sometimes, unless all the ducks are lined up, it sometimes does make it difficult for therapists, for core support providers, for plan managers, support coordinators, and even LACs who want an active involvement. It does make it challenging for everyone to know what's going on.
Yeah, you got to step through a few hoops or talk to this person, get permission from this person, and yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough one.
I think that's the biggest thing that I've heard about the NDIS is that it's forever changing, and as it does, but new things come up and you have to keep updated, and I guess that's what the role of a plan manager would be, is to keep updated with all those changes and get that information. The other one was, if you're not happy with the decision, there's nothing you can do.
That's wrong. So you always have the right to request a review. There are some situations or things that the NDIS won't review, and that it's pretty much if you've run out of funding, you can't request a review just because you've run out of funding. Although having said that, it does say that on their documents, but having said that, I do know that at one stage, I'm not sure if it's still the same at the moment, but I know that some LACs probably last year were saying, oh look, If you run out of funding, just ask for a review. Yet their operational guidelines say something different. So you can always ask for a review. So, and then if your situation changes, if your circumstances, if your functional capacity changes in any way, you can actually request a different type of review as well, which is a change of circumstances. So no, you can definitely always make changes. And come July 1, there's going to be a little bit of, I guess, awareness raising about the fact that those names are actually changing. So that's going to be great. So when you come up for your plan review, which is different to, you know, having not agreeing with the NDIS's decision, they're changing that to a reassessment. So that's going to be called a reassessment. When you request a review, because you're not happy with the decision from the NDIS, it's going to stay called review. And then there's another little thing coming in called plan variation. And that is going to take some of the, I guess, the time and cost out of making a whole new plan review over some smaller changes that you would like to make to the plan. For example, requesting plan management as your choice of management style. So those sort of things are certainly going to be made more easy come July 1.
I like that. When you mentioned the name change, I was like, "Ooh, what's that going to be?" But then I'm like, "Oh, that actually makes sense." Like, is it scheduled plan review and plan review? They're really very like the same, but they're very different.
So many similar terms. It's even, you know, you have plan managers, you have support coordinators, you've got local area coordinators, and all of those names, you know, are different roles, but they almost sound like they could be the same. So same with reviews.
The coordinator, I think a lot of people get mixed up, the support or the LAC. Yeah. And the last one, once I've chosen my service providers, I can change them. So this is like therapist, respite, all that.
Absolutely. You can change your providers at any time. You just need to check if you've got a service agreement in place. You just need to check if they do have any notice period attached to ceasing services. But no, choice and control all the way. If you want to move to another provider, your provider really needs to make it as easy as possible for you to do so. And if you experience any pushback from any provider at all, absolutely call it out, because that's not on. It's absolutely your decision to choose the providers that you want to work with, and that you think will best achieve your outcomes that you've got planned. And I mean, we've seen situations where we've had participants and families want to come to us at Plan Tracker, and we've seen that it's been made quite difficult. And really, even if you want to change a plan manager, you don't even have to wait to the end of your plan. You can actually request a change at any stage of your plan. You just give notice to your exiting plan manager. You sign up with your new plan manager, Plan Tracker maybe, and then you just let your providers know where to invoice. It should be as simple as that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
What I was going to say to everyone that's joining us, whoever's joining us that has an NDIS plan or who cares for someone who has an NDIS plan, comment in the little chat if you are plan, self, or NDIS agency managed. I said NDIA again. Agency managed, or if you are rewatching the live, comment that down below in the comments. What we're going to do now is answer a few of the pre-asked questions. Anyone that's joining feel free to ask questions as we go. Comment, if something that's questionable comes up, feel free to question it. But we're going to answer some of the questions that I asked my followers last week, and we got some good ones. So we might start with the good one that we probably should have mentioned at the beginning. But what is the difference between plan, self, and agency managed?
Okay, so there's some clear differences between the three. Plan and self-managed are probably the closest together, I guess you could say. So if we start with NDIA managed or agency managed plans, what you'll have there is that the NDIA will manage all of the payments to your providers. Your providers will do their own what's called service bookings, and then they will send off payment requests, and the NDIS will make those payments. If you're a good user of your portal, you'll be able to see all of that activity going on. some people don't feel like they've got the same amount of visibility across budgets and how much is left in their budgets as they would have if they were planned or self-managed. The other thing with having an agency or an NDIA managed plan is that you can only use registered providers. And so they are providers who are registered with the NDIS. And there's many providers in the sector who are not registered with the NDIS. And there's a lot of providers who might provide domestic type support who, you know, they don't predominantly work in the disability sector, so they wouldn't consider becoming a registered NDIS provider, but they probably provide a banging service. So, you know, you'd want to be able to choose to use them. So that's when you would look at being planned or self-managed. So self-managed means that you are in control of everything. You make your claims, you make your payments to your providers, you keep track of your invoices, you keep track of your budgets and balances. Yeah, basically it's all on you, which is great. A lot of people, there's, you know, it's a good portion of Australians who have NDIS plans or their nominees, they do self-manage. There's more self-managers than there are agency managed participants in Australia. So I think it's sitting at around, I could be wrong, sitting around 30% or just over 30%. And that is, and you could probably share why you choose to, but that is because you do have that overarching control. You can walk into your therapy appointments, you can make the payments, you can walk out and know that you're free and clear and that you don't have anything, you know, hanging over your head. There's probably other reasons that I'm not privy to that obviously can share as well. But the other option, not the other option, the other advantage to self-managed is that you can negotiate your own price rates. So if you say, for example, have a psychologist that you work really well with, connects really well with you and your family, but they charge more than the NDIS suggests as their capped maximum rate, as a self-manager, you can pay that little extra. You don't get more in your funding, because you're choosing to use that provider. So you just need to be able to, I guess, manage that. But you have the choice to do that. That's the main difference between self and plan managed, is that plan managed participants still must adhere to the NDIS price caps. So yeah, I guess that's the administrative difference between plan and self managed. If you're plan managed, it means your plan manager takes care of all of your payments to your providers. And a good plan manager will be able to keep you in touch with your budgets, your balances, and then also, you know, and it's probably going to answer the next question, be a bit of a support network for you as well. So, you know, if you are struggling to find some additional support about how do I do this, can I do this, where do I go for that, that's what you can actually ask your plan manager for some support in. And that's what we love doing as well. The invoice processing is transactional. That's boring. We love talking to our participants. We love, you know, seeing the smiles on their faces. We love seeing that relief that they experience when we've actually just, you know, given them a light bulb moment. So, yeah. Have I covered that off?
I think the NDIS is it's a big system and it's confusing. And, you know, if you've just stepped into it and you've gone, okay, I can't self-manage this. It's so great to have that support from someone who knows and is you're in communication with, and as a guide on it. I think I saw a comment. Can you swap halfway through self to plan manage, or have to wait?
At the moment, you have to put in for a plan review to be able to do that. But come July 1, I'm pretty sure that's going to be one of the plan variations, which means you just request it and it gets switched. So it's going to be so much easier. So you can't, and I think they'll continue to make it easier so that you can even, you know, keep jumping between one and the other down the track. But yeah, no, at the moment, it's pretty sure you need to formally request that.
Okay. I thought I was going to do this at the end, but while we're talking about plan management and what the plan manager does, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about plan tracker now and what plan tracker is. People are probably a little bit confused, maybe, I'm not sure, but it may it's if we explain who you are and where you're from, and then we can go on with the questions after that.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yep, lovely. So my name's Justine. I work with Plan Tracker. Plan Tracker offers plan and self-management support. So, and that's all we do. So you'll find that there'll be quite a few plan management organisations that offer multiple supports, and that eventually is going to be something that the NDIS will continue. They already are, but they will continue to hone in on to make sure that the conflict of interest is not present if you are offering multiple supports. Plan Tracker only offer plan management. We do have a self-management app, and we have support behind that self-management app. So we have families who use our app to be able to track their payments, their claims, put their invoices in there, have it all stored in one place, and then that also tracks your budget balances, planned spending, all of that sort of stuff. So that sits in our self-management area. And then we have support behind that as well. So you can always ring up and we can troubleshoot problems and talk about, the NDIS in general, talk about how to use your plan in general as well. The plan management side of things, Plan Tracker, I think, there's actually 1,000 plan managers in Australia. So we're one of 1,000. But I think that we have a real point of difference. So we were born out of our founder, Elisa. She went to an NDIS information session back in 2016 or something like that. And in the interests of her son, who has a disability. And when she walked out, she realised that it was potentially going to be, the scheme was potentially going to be this, amazing, deal-breaking, event for her son. And it did. It proved to be that. And when she left the information session, having a social work and tech background, because we all do, she went and built that self-management app that I was talking about. So she built the app with the intention to share it with families like hers that are, self-managing their children's plans. I mean, it's not just families; it's any participant who can use the app. But it was really around supporting families to self-direct their funds, their children's funds, and participants as well, other participants as well. So from that, Elisa built the plan management part of it. So self-management actually came first with Plan Tracker, and then she built the plan management part of it. But our values and the way that we discuss the NDIS comes really out of that self-directed, embracing the self-direction, embracing choice and control, advocating for that. And really trying to show participants how to use plan managed NDIS plans. So, and the thing is with a plan managed NDIS plan is that once those reasonable and necessary decisions have been made by the NDIS and you've got a funded amount, and I think we'll probably end up talking about this in a little bit anyway, but when you've got that funded amount in the plan, you have choice and control over how you use that funding. So even if this calculation that's going on in some office in Canberra is actually, once it lands in that paper plan, you're the expert in yours or your child's life. So you know how best to use that funding. And as long as you abide by the 7 guiding principles that are in the NDIS's booklet that they've published, and you can confidently answer those principles, then you can use the supports in all the funding in any way you like. But the provider does need to have an ABN. I just might point that out. But so Plan Tracker really does come from that that background, that lived experience background. So and that's what we love about it. We love actually having those conversations with families, with participants and families, and just, plugging those gaps where the participant might not have had a great implementation, or they just don't have support coordination, because we know that only 44-ish% of Australians with NDIS plans actually have support coordination built into their plan. So the other, 56, how's my maths, don't have that support there, which is what they can actually ask for to a certain degree, from their plan manager.
Yeah, I know when I think we're on like Jacob's 3rd plan or something like that. I literally got my book out and I was writing how to divvy up different things. I'm a writer, but definitely when I heard about Plan Tracker and I actually went through it with you guys, I was like, I need this. Like I needed it because when you are self-managed, you have to, you know, split it up for the whole year, and just creating everything in that one app and being able to see it live every time, just checking it and seeing what's going on with it. Yeah.
And knowing that you've got someone to call as well, so you can always, you know, you can always give us a call just to even bounce ideas from. So, and we actually enjoy that conversation as well, because it actually informs our team. You know, coming to us with ideas about what you'd like to do, we'll be like, what's that program? And then we'll share that with our team, because it's all about that information sharing and making sure that, you know, it's because there's so many different places to find information. If you've got a trusted, you know, set of sources that you can actually turn to, you know, we love holding on to information about, you know, different sort of supports and services that people are accessing, and then sharing it when that comes up in another conversation.
Yeah, it's always best hearing from a positive recommendation that, like, you know, a service is good, because then, you know, like, you don't know, but, you know, you have a good recommendation from that, and it's come from an actual, not the organization.
It's not a Google search.
Yeah. Might go on to the questions. So we'll go to question 2, which is benefits of plan management versus self-managed.
I think that the benefit, I've probably touched on it, but I think the benefit of plan versus self is that the admin is taken away. So you'll see a lot of plan management advertising saying, oh, the personal bookkeeper, and, you know, reduce the admin burden. And really that is a part of it. That's definitely a part of it, is that as a plan managed participant, you don't even have to receive the invoices yourself. You can ask your providers to send their invoices straight across to your plan manager. And then the plan manager makes payment, and a good plan manager will make sure that they've got an excellent app that you can refer to see your budgets and balances, see your invoices, and see where you're up to. A good plan manager will also send you an alert if they track that you might be potentially overspending or underspending, and reaching out at that point. Not all plan managers do that. So a good plan manager can offer things in addition to what you'd have as self-managed, really around that support. So yes, we definitely take some of that admin burden, but it's really around having somebody else in your support team that you can rely on to call, speak to, and answer, you know, work through issues and problems that you might not have as a self-manager. As a self-manager, you could have all of your supports and services in place, be perfectly happy with it, run a great spreadsheet, because, you know, you might have just, you know, 8,500, 9,000 in a therapy budget, and you already know that it's going to speech OT and physio. So it's all sort of almost set and forget in some ways. But eventually, with life transitions, and if we're thinking about families with children who are NDIS participants, there's so many different life stages that child's going to move through, that you might actually eventually want to look at plan management just to have someone on the end of the phone to call. And that makes a difference.
It is at the moment, like, all about therapy, I think, earlier on, but, you know, as you go on throughout life, you access different funding and different categories, and I know that is to a lot of people. And so, yeah, it would be amazing to just, you know, debrief with someone about all of that. Absolutely. And make a plan about what you're going to do. And yeah, that's awesome. So someone said no question, but we've been with Plan Tracker since the beginning, and so happy we chose them, which is awesome.
Just teared up.
It's always good to hear a recommendation from someone that's using it. Yeah, I had to include that. But someone else said, do I self-manage or plan manage? So I self-manage Jacob's plan. I have a lot of knowledge about the NDIS too, though. So I feel like that was sort of a given for me to do self-manage. I feel like if I don't know too much about the NDIS, or even if I don't, and I just feel like I probably may in the future change to plan management, because as you said, Jacob's going to go through a different life stage, and it's always going to be different to me and going on. So yeah, I think for the moment, while it's all like therapy and things like that, we are self-managed, but yeah, I'm sure that's going to change as the life band goes on.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we I didn't say before, and I apologise, is that you can actually have a mixture. So you could choose to self-manage a part of your what's called core budget, and then because your therapy invoices, you're pretty happy with the providers that you've got, you could plan manage that, but then have some control over the core, the consumables part, because sometimes if you've got a small amount of consumables or whatever amount of consumables in your core budget, sometimes it's easier to self-manage that because you can go and buy it and reimburse yourself. Without having to worry about, not that you necessarily have to, but you've just got more choice, I think. But then again, a good plan manager would help you work through, the receipts and invoices and stuff that you might need to supply for a reimbursement anyway. So, but you can do a mixture.
Hey, you can't mix with agency, can you? Or
you can. Yeah, no, a lot of people do, but because, a lot of people do for lots of reasons, but one reason would be that a lot of SIL providers, which is supported independent living providers, which is the 24-hour care, they are agency managed, but then there might be a need to use a plan managed part for social and community participation, or even the therapy side of it. So a lot of the SIL budgets, I think, because they're reasonably high in value, and they're provided more often than not by a registered provider, they are agency managed, and then the rest can be plan managed. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think NDIS would tell you though what parts of the plan will be made to be agency managed, and you can.
But you can still have an opinion as well. So you could say, no, my SIL provider is actually not registered, but I completely trust that they're going to do the right thing, and they're the ones that I want to use. So in that case, and we do have some plan managed support independent living participants with us.
Okay, cool. I thought it was agency, but that's awesome. Another question: how can one access extra help at home with just daily tasks? So
that's a great one. Okay, so here's the thing. If we're talking about, and we probably are, talking about mums and dads with children or carers with children with a disability, and you require, for absolutely legitimate reasons, you require some extra support around the house. And I think my opinion is that the NDIS will see that as parental responsibility, keep your house in order, whatever. Fact is, burnout, carers burnout, it exists. It absolutely exists. The other hurdle that you'd need to get over, if you want to call it a hurdle, is that not a lot of children, in my experience, have what's called the core budget, which is where that support would come from. So a decent amount of kids who are NDIS participants, they would have a therapy budget or an early intervention, or a regular therapy budget, and maybe $500 in their core budget, and that $500 is pretty much set aside for the consumables that we were talking about before. If there's more in there, it goes back to that old little chestnut rule about being plan managed. If you've got a core budget and you really, really need some help to organise, to just help with meal prep, do something just to give you a bit of time to be a mum, go for it. Plan Tracker says go for it. I'm probably going to trouble for it later, but ask for forgiveness later. But it's choice and control. It's absolutely choice and control. So, but you just need the funding first.
Yeah, and I think as long as you can confidently say it ticks off the criteria of the 7 criteria, I am a belief. You use it how you need to use it, and as you said before, caregiver burnout is a huge thing, and it is under my belief that there should be more core supports being given earlier on in the, because I don't want to say all carers, but to some extent, most caregivers are caregiving for the rest of that person's life. And maintaining that support is going to be beneficial to the NDIS because it'll be cheaper for them to care for this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I watched this conference last week, and there's if you don't know him, there's a guy called Bruce Bonahady who's an absolute legend, and he was talking about the return around early intervention in particular, about making it really family-centered, family-focused. And this is just my personal opinion, obviously, but you would think that an element of that is protecting the family unit and actually providing that little bit of extra support, like how other people can access respite and, you know, to be able to achieve those outcomes of just a little bit of time out, I guess you could say. Having that available to, you know, to parents of children with disability, even, you know, a little bit of amount would be, it'd be amazing. So let's make some savings somewhere else and start putting that into families' core budgets.
100%. And yeah, as I mentioned, that's going to save the NDIS, you know, just that. I find even just like an hour just to breathe, just to separate myself, just to catch myself back and then step back in, you know, it's like it does a world of difference. And I think that, you know, that's 100% true, I think. And I'm not sure if man is a good man or
we love Bruce. We love Bruce.
Oh,
yeah, we do. We love Bruce Bonahady. It's one of the architects, I think, or one of the designers, I guess you could say, of the NDIS. But he's so relevant, and he's just so real as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good advocate to have on our side.
Yeah.
And the last question is there any cost to me for plan management?
Not any personal costs. So if you request plan management, it's funded in the NDIS plan. So it's under a bit of a funny title. It's called Improved Choice and Control. Improved Life Choices, Choice and Control. And that's what the plan management funding sits. So if you have a plan that is plan managed, there will be a setup fee, about $232 or something like that a plan manager can take at the beginning of a plan. And that's only available once. So if you do move to another plan manager, the new plan manager won't get that setup fee. But most plan managers, like Plan Tracker, we're just like, we don't care about that. We just want to make you happy, make sure that you stay with us for, you know, as long as you need to. And, you know, we'll take people on without that setup fee in place. So there's that. And then there is a monthly processing fee. So we get $104 and I think 45 cents, which may or may not go up on the 1st of July. Hasn't had a pay rise for 2 years. So we'll see if that actually happens. So it's all the same. There's no difference in price. There's no competition in terms of how much plan managers are paid. So it's just the level of service that you receive for, you know, how much bang for buck that you get from each plan manager. So no cost except it is in the plan. So yes and no.
Yeah, I haven't heard, I've heard a few stories of, you know, very little support coming from plan managers. So you know, it's so nice to know that you can always change. You can always, you know, find someone better. Find someone who suits you. I always say that about therapy as well. You know, it may not be that the person is not right for anyone, just they're not right for you. And just finding that connection with someone could be so good. Someone mentioned it was a change they did that. I think that was in referral to core supports earlier on in life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think too. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my live today.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come back one day as well. We can talk about something else. Maybe when the new price guide's out, which is the new, you know, prices and a couple of the new changes that are coming in. I'd love to come back. Just think I've just invited myself back. Just crashed yours. You know,
anytime, any information we can give. I mostly do these lives so that because I get asked a lot of questions and I don't always have the answers, and I just think it's great to have people on who just know, and people ask questions and get genuine answers. And yeah, it's been great having you on here, and we'll definitely have you back if you have.
Thank you. And if anybody does want to make the change to come across to Plan Tracker, I think we'll probably, if it's all right with you, we might pop a link just to our website or something like that for people to jump on. And like I said before, the process is super easy. You give notice to your last plan manager, you sign up with us, and then you let your providers know. And it's as easy as that. And we take care of any of the, you know, maybe the awkwardness, I suppose you could say. If you do feel like you can't have that conversation, we can guide you through that. Yeah. And if you want to switch from self to plan managed, it will be easier soon, but you can still do it. Yeah, and always available for questions. Always just give us a call.
Yeah, and also if you are self-managed, it's an amazing app to see that way. If you are self-managed and you want to do it that way, it's great to keep track of things as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you,
Absolutely.
and we'll see everyone next week for our next live. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.